was the harmonica in the war effort that Ronald Chesney was asked to give the forces lessons.
How to play the harmonica, I think it was, that I had a weekly programme. I had letters from all over the world from guys who had harmonicas, and they were in the desert and they got sand in it, and how did they get it out, and all that sort of thing, you know. And I used to, yes, do a lesson on how to play the harmonica on the radio. I said, you blow in this hole, then you suck in that hole, you know.
Of more debatable value was Chesney's contribution to harmonica fiction in the 1945 film They Met in the Dark, where his playing sent coded musical messages to eagerly waiting spies.
Has he got it?
He's getting it.
Well?
Yes, I've got it, sir. It falls into 4 groups of 6. 2G code, I think.
2G is right. Makes it easy. Dandelion sails 23:30 hours tonight.
It might have been less trouble just to walk across the room and tell them. The supply of harmonicas to our side must have been restricted because Ronald Chesney himself was suffering a shortage.
Harmonicas don't last very long. If you play them and you pull notes around, you make the notes go flat, you make the note go boo, it makes the metal of the reed go funny, and in the end the harmonicas had it. So after a few weeks, generally most harmonicas in those days packed up, went out of tune. You could tune them if you knew how, but it's not very easy. So anyway, I was running out of harmonicas because during the war. So after the war, I got permission to go to Trossingen in Germany in 1946. I got to drive, I drove a car all that way through all the cities which had been demolished. Nobody liked the look of me anyway. And I eventually got to Trossingen, and I gave a concert. And they gave me 400 harmonicas. So I was set with harmonicas for quite a few years.
One of the reasons for Chesney's appetite for new harmonicas was his demanding repertoire, which included the most famous breakneck showpiece in the book.
I made a record of the Flight of the Bumblebee, which I don't think anybody else has ever done before me. And if you think about the Flight of the Bumblebee, it has to be played very fast. And it's all blow, suck, blow, suck, blow, suck. And, you know, so it took a bit of doing. But anyway, I managed to do it quite well, I hope.
That kind of virtuosity wouldn't have been possible on the standard diatonic harp. This had to be the chromatic harmonica, developed from 1914 on and popular since the mid-20s. And it's here that the narrative of the harmonica splits in two.
A mouth organ orchestra in Germany. Each musician has many harmonicas and changes from one to another to get the proper tones. A unique German band, but the music is American.
Later on, we had the chromatic harmonica, which is actually 2 harmonicas built into one. You have the slide and you switch from one plate to the other, so you have all the 12 notes of the chromatic scale, which with this harmonica it is possible to play actually any melody that you want, and several intervals and partial chords, which makes the harmonica so interesting.
With the chromonica, no chord sequence was out of bounds anymore, and a whole new repertoire opened up.
A T4-2 is the one, too. If you play it in C, that middle part goes to E major. Wow! With all those things you had to... you know, and then that's how I learned all the keys. Play T4-2 in A flat, you know. Etc., you know. And and after a while, you know, the musician said, throw that toy away, get a real instrument.
I got the said about her, how can I be glad without a blues?
In fact, that was the official view of the American Federation of Musicians, their trade union, when in the early 40s they ordered a ban on recording. The harmonica, not counting as a real instrument, was exempt, with the result that harmonica hits were created. Within 3 years, they were topping the charts. This is Alan Pogson, the originator of arguably the biggest harmonica hit of all time, Peg O' My Heart. The beast he's grappling with is a chord harmonica. Pete Peterson, the arranger of the track, recalls meeting Al Fior of the original Harmonicats and seeing such a strange new contraption for the first time.
They had a harmonica club, and he showed up one time, and the night we met him, he had a chord harmonica that his uncle had made for him. His uncle was a professional musician, and his uncle had, I guess, designed or maybe actually made it out of different kinds of harmonicas, and he put them together in a rack so that he could play all these different chords. And he was very good at that. I mean, he just knocked Jerry and I's socks off because he could move around so fast.
Concert music composers didn't seem to share the AFM's disdain for the harmonica. Masters as diverse as Vaughan Williams, James Moody and Malcolm Arnold came to write extended works for the instrument. Vaughan Williams's Romance for Harmonica and Orchestra was written for Larry Adler.
An equation, harmonica equals Larry Adler.
The 1920s have been the most exciting time for the harmonica, and Honam had big ad campaigns, especially in USA, other countries, and in USA. They made contests for young people to be city champion and champion for harmonica playing. And we know the biography of Larry Adler. He wrote it down. It was, I think, in Boston when he went to such a contest as a pupil, and he won. And so it was the start of his career. He switched to the harmonica then and played for Hollywood and all this.
I heard a Larry Adler record, of course. I think it was either Caravan or Night and Day, or some of these days. Something like one of those 78s, and my phonograph is there if you see it. And say, I'm going to buy one. I was planning to become a math teacher and was not an Einstein. I wound up flopping at the examinations, you know, but then music became my life.
When I was 16 years old, before the war, gave me a harmonica for a birthday present and then a record of Larry Adler. And I heard Larry, and I was so impressed that I practiced very hard. And I went to buy another harmonica in a big shop in Charing Cross Road, and they asked me to play it, and I did. Oh, they said it was so good. So I got an audition to play in a theatre. In fact, the first theatre I ever played the harmonica in was the Windmill. And I used to stand on the side of the stage when all the nude girls would come on, because I was the only one allowed to stand, because I would follow them to wake up all the guys who were sitting in the front of the theatre and be watching the girls.
He was the first person to take the harmonica out from the, shall we say, kids' pockets and put it into the concert hall. Some of the things he did I didn't like, but some of the things I do people don't like. You can't please all the people all the time.
I mean, I'm not a big Larry Adler fan. I think he's sort of is a bit melodramatic in his style for my taste, but he certainly did make people aware of the chromatic harmonica and did sell quite a few albums, you know.
If he was to play The Ladies of Germany, he'd play... and chords like that. And in some instances, the chords, because of the nature and the engineering of the harmonica, you can't play chords. You can only play 2 or 3 chords. And he played all sorts of chords, and they just didn't match. But nobody else was doing it, So consequently, who cares? He entertained the public, and that's the important thing.
Larry Adler never caught the British mood better than in his theme for the 1953 film comedy Genevieve, composed at a time when he and America had fallen severely out of love.
He was, unfortunately, a victim of the McCarthy witch hunts, and he had to leave America, not because he was a communist, but because he wouldn't respond to their requests for information of people who he knew who may be communists. And he said, I refuse to answer. Anyway, he was blacklisted, and he came over to England. He never went back to America. And he did a lot of work in England on films. The most prestigious one was Genevieve.
I was in America. A friend of mine in Long Island, who I was going to visit that weekend, called me and says, look, I bought a new Cadillac. Instead of me coming down to New York to collect it, could you pick it up and drive it to Long Island for me? I said, sure. I got in a traffic jam, couldn't move, suddenly got the first 8 bars, that later was the first 8 bars of Genevieve, and I pulled over, and I had a wallet at that time with had little manuscript paper in it, and I wrote down the first 8 bars of Genevieve, which I didn't have to change. It took me 2 months to write the bridge, the middle section.
There's never been, there probably never will be, a better demonstration of the harmonica's capacity to cater to all moods, from jaunty exteriors to the intimacy of the bedroom.
When the credits came out, it didn't say music by Larry Adler. They said music by Muir Matheson. Muir Matheson was the conductor of the orchestra, but he didn't write the music. And it was 50 years after that film was made that Larry Adler ultimately got the recognition he so richly deserved.
The music for John Wayne's The High and the Mighty got the Oscar that year anyway. In much the same way as film critics compare Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, harmonica fans will always argue to and fro about Larry Adler and his great contemporary, Tommy Riley.
He was magnificent. I will say this about Tommy Riley. If you've got a piece of manuscript paper and you put a spider, dipped his legs in ink, and the spider crawled over the manuscript paper and gave it to Tommy Riley, he'd play it.
Captivating tone he had on the harmonica. Wonderful player. And he told the most amazing stories about his life. He was a violinist. He was originally a violinist, highly influenced, he said, by Jascha Heifetz, and he went to study music at the Dresden Conservatoire in Germany, and this was in the 30s, and then the war broke out. And he was immediately interned as an alien, and he couldn't play. But you know, he hadn't got a violin. But being Canadian, he got really good food parcels every week or every month or something. He got these wonderful food parcels with real coffee, and he was able to trade his real coffee for mouth organs with his captors, because all they had was made out of acorns. So, all the time through the war, he learned how to play the harmonica and never played the violin again.